Hi, I'm Kelly Coker Ross, and I currently serve the Bridge in Bloomsburg. And I am glad to be here to discuss our next steps with all of the churches.
I'm Sherry Bellish, and I attend and work at Middlesex United Methodist Church, and I'm excited to be on this committee, and I look forward to seeing what churches can revitalize and reuse their space.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Connect. I serve as the conference treasurer, and I'm also a member of the committee.
My name is Michelle Williams. I'm a certified lay minister with Carlisle United Methodist Church, and I also serve as the vice president of the Council on Finance and Administration for the Susquehanna Conference. And I am very excited to be part of this committee and to launch this Seedling Legacy Grant this year to really help churches.
I'm Michelle Bodal. I am the superintendent for the Mountain Valley District and representing the cabinet.
Mark, did you want to add anything about the fund? Anything from your point of view as the treasurer?
Sure. I think it'd be helpful from a contextual perspective to remind everybody where the funding for the Seedling Ministry program is coming from. So, as you're aware or may not be aware, annual conference 3 years ago voted to wind down the Seedling Financial Ministry. Over its lifetime, after completion of the repayment of all the outstanding loans, there'll be roughly, if everybody pays, roughly $10 million of funding available to the annual conference from loans that were outstanding at the time or interest payments that were made. And so the Council on Finance Administration, along with the Board of Trustees and the Cabinet, made some decisions about what would be a good use of those funds. The idea of the Seedling Legacy Program was born out. So it gained traction to move forward with the use of those funds to create what you see before you today. And what we will do is take earnings off of the corpus. So as churches who are now incentivized to repay these loans, as those churches continue to repay loans, that corpus will increase and the funding will increase. So the amount of funding available today will be the lowest point that we anticipate having funding. So as the years go by, the funding for this program will continue to grow as churches who had outstanding loans continue to repay them. So we're hopeful because it really does lead itself to a sustainable project as we continue to expand the principal base and reinvest the proceeds back into the annual conference through this program. So a little bit of context there. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure folks were aware, there's another member of our committee who was unable to join us tonight, and that's the Director of Connectional Ministries, Reverend Dr. Kathleen Kind. So just another name and face who you may come across at annual conference or elsewhere who will be able to speak to the program.
Thank you, everyone, for joining Seedling Grant Program webinar that was scheduled for today at 6 p.m. We're going to start on time. We hope to do this within an hour or less. We just want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to join us. We know there are many demands on your time, at ours as well, so we appreciate your presence. Tonight is about helping your church think clearly about its next faithful steps. We'll walk through the purpose of the Seedling Legacy Grant Program, what kinds of projects are a good fit, how to approach the application process. Many of you submitted questions ahead of time. Thank you so much. That was very helpful for us to make this meaningful for you. And we've woven those into the presentation as much as we could, so this can be helpful and as practical as possible. So the purpose of the Seedling Legacy Grant Program, at its core, this program is about ministry, not just about buildings. It exists to help churches align their physical space and financial resources with their mission and calling. The focus is not on maintaining buildings for their own sake, but on enabling ministry that impacts people and communities. When you think about this program, think less about what needs to be fixed and more about what ministry God is calling you and your church to do and how your space supports that. So you'll hear this throughout: reimagine, repurpose, and revitalize. That's actually part of the Seedling Legacy Grant Program that we developed. And an overview of this is the program supports capital projects such as renovations, repurposing, and infrastructure improvements. These are projects that change how space is used or strengthen the church's ability to serve. The most important filter is whether the project clearly connects to ministry impact and community engagement, and we'll talk more about that when we get to some examples. The program also emphasizes sustainability, meaning projects should continue to make a difference long after the grant is used. Now I'm going to pause right here. We are going to monitor chat periodically. We will try to answer questions that were submitted ahead of time. If you have additional questions, if we have time, we'll try to address those at the end, but we can't make promises that we're going to be able to answer every question. There are some that you may get answers to later, and we'll follow up with you. Okay. The funding focus, you will hear 3 words throughout the program: reimagine, repurpose, and revitalize. Reimagine means creating something new, a new ministry idea or new ways of engaging the community. Repurpose means taking a space that is underused or no longer used effectively and using it differently. Revitalize means strengthening something that already exists so it can continue to grow. Most strong projects actually touch more than one of these areas, so it can be a combination of these 4. And then who can apply? It will be any of the churches within the Susquehanna Conference are eligible to apply. A key requirement is that the church is currently on its it's updated on its connectional commitments. That means shares ministry and other obligations such as pension and insurance. Beyond that, we're looking for signs of readiness, including leadership structure, financial responsibility, and a willingness to move forward. This is not about being perfect, but about being prepared to take the next step. Okay. We'll go on to the next slide. Sherry, do you have the printout for the slides? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to pull it up. I just lost connection.
Oh, okay.
I know, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you want somebody else to take slides 6 through 10?
I got it.
Okay.
I pulled it up right when you said that.
Great. Perfect.
So sorry.
God's timing.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
Oops,
slide
sorry.
numbers.
Hold on.
Okay.
There we go.
Got it. Okay. So eligible projects include accessibility improvements, repurposing unused space, and infrastructures upgrades that directly support ministry. For example, this could be converting classrooms into community use space, upgrading systems that support active ministries, or making a building more welcome and accessible. The key is that the building is serving the mission, not the other way around. Slide number 7. It is just as important to be clear about what is not funded. Routine maintenance, cosmetic repairs, operating expenses, salaries, and debt reduction are not eligible. These are all important needs, but they're not the focus of this program. This program is specifically designed for projects that expand or strengthen ministry impact. Next slide. We talk about healthy churches because strong projects come from churches that are engaged and moving forward. A healthy church is one that is making disciples, engaging with its community, and building partnerships. It has accountable leadership and practices good stewardship. This is not a checklist, but a picture of readiness and direction. Funding amounts may vary depending on the cycle and the number of applications. Churches should review current materials for specific limits. What matters most is that the request matches the scope of the project and demonstrates thoughtful planning. A well-aligned, realistic request is much stronger than one that is unclear or overextended. Excuse me. These grants are not intended to cover 100% of the project. Churches are expected to participate, whether through financial contribution, volunteer effort, or partnership. This shared investment shows commitment and ownership. It also strengthens the application because it demonstrates that the church is fully engaged in the project. We're going to pause here for questions.
Give me 1 second. Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah, what we're going to do, Sherry and everybody else, is we're just going to keep. Okay, go to the slide 11.
So I think you want to go one more slide forward, please.
Slide 11, that's the future and design.
Mhm. Yep. And we're seeing the one that says funding.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is slide 11. Go ahead. It talks about that. Yeah.
So churches are welcome to apply again in future cycles, especially if you use previous funds effectively. Design costs should be included if they are clearly tied to a larger project and show movement towards implementation. These grants are designed for one-time capital projects, but not ongoing or multi-year funding. There are 2 application cycles each year. The first is the one we're currently in, which runs April 15th to June 15th, with decisions announced in early August. The second runs from September 15th to October 15th, with decisions announced in December. Churches should apply when they are ready rather than rushing to meet a deadline. A strong application is always better than a fast one. Applications will include information about church health, a detailed description of the project, a timeline, and a budget with estimates. You'll also need leadership endorsement from your council or trustees, along with supporting documents such as photos or plans. Taking time to prepare these elements in advance will make the application process much smoother. The strongest applications clearly connect the project to the church's mission and the needs of the community. They show a realistic plan, a clear timeline, and a sustainable approach. They are complete and easy to understand. A helpful way to think about this is clarity over complexity, helping the committee quickly understand what you are doing and why it matters. There's accountability built into this program. Churches will be asked to provide progress and final reports, along with documentation of expenses. There's also an expectation that churches will share their story of the ministry impact. This ensures transparency and helps demonstrate the value of the program.
So let's talk disbursement. Funds may be distributed in installments or through reimbursement process. Churches should be prepared to provide documentation before receiving funds. In some cases, there may be site visits or requests for photos. This ensures that the project is moving forward as planned. Now, an example of revitalize. Let's focus on this example. Let's say we're looking at replacing HVAC and hot water systems and that support childcare and after-school programs. This is just a building upgrade. It is protecting an active ministry that serves children and families. Without this project, that ministry could be reduced or shut down, which is what makes it a strong example. So therefore, it's not just an upgrade, but we're revitalizing and caring for something that's already in place. Now let's talk about repurposing. In this example, a closed child care wing is repurposed into a community center. This takes space that is no longer being used and it gives a brand new purpose. It includes updates like secure access and renovated bathrooms. This shows adaptability and a willingness to respond to changing needs in the community. And finally, an example of reimagine. This example converts unused space into counseling offices with a separate entrance for a nonprofit partner. This expands access to mental health services and creates a sustainable partnership. It also brings consistent daily use into the building, making it a strong example of reimagining space for a brand new impact. And we have received many thoughtful questions, and we've tried to address as many as possible throughout the presentation. Some questions may require additional follow-up, as Michelle had mentioned, and we will provide a full Q&A document after the webinar. Our goal is to make sure you leave with clarity and confidence about your next steps.
And literally, we were getting questions moments before the webinar opened, and we were doing everything we could to make sure that we had what you needed. Let's go through these. I think these will be helpful, and these are specifically, we did not put names to it, but these are your exact questions. We will have these uploaded on the web page, so you can have access to these, and other churches can download this and look. So one of the biggest questions we got was, can we use the grant for a roof? So if it's routine general repairs and maintenance, that's not what we're talking about. If your roof needs to be replaced, it's at the end of its life cycle, and you have active ministries within your church where you're serving the community, your missions are strong, and the building is part of that, then yes, a roof replacement is eligible. If you have like a leaky roof on one side, or something's happening where it's just like general maintenance and it's older, that's not part of it. We're talking about larger capital improvement projects. And when we say capital, it's not maintenance and wear and tear upkeep. It is big projects that improve the value of your property, of the church property. The second one is what types of projects will be funded. If you just remember these three words, which I did forget one earlier: reimagine, repurpose, and revitalize. So that roof repair is revitalizing the church building to, sustain a child care center that is vital as part of the community service. Or, you have so many groups that come in and use your building. You have AA or NA or, meetings by community members in the building, where you're actively engaging with the community. What kinds of examples? We did a few. We invite you as church leaders and pastors to get creative and really focus and ask God to show you what He wants to do with your church building. It may be an idea you think you have, and then God has other plans, because that's typically how He usually works. So be open to how your church might be repurposed or used. Examples could be a food pantry expansion. One church I know wants to start feeding the community. And so maybe they need some kitchen upgrades or, open a service window or something. Counseling spaces. One cool idea that I came across was repurposing old Sunday school classrooms for telehealth hubs, like using that for rural communities where healthcare is scarce. Community centers, ministries supporting facility upgrades. I know some may be thinking about church additions and things like that, or building additions to help revitalize or bring in new ministry. So what will not be funded? We talked about that. Routine maintenance projects without clear ministry impact, proposals that are lacking sufficient planning. So please make sure that you're working with contractors who are reputable and insured and licensed in the state of Pennsylvania to do the work. Okay. That you have leadership support, that the congregation knows what's happening. Has to be a financial commitment there, and that this is sustainable. Okay. And then what is the format for submitting the application? It is a JOT form that our IT guy has designed based on our input. It is great. I have tested it out. It looks wonderful. We get a full PDF, and every document that you upload goes into its own little folder. It's the coolest thing. It should be very easy. And the worksheet and application guide that we give you will help you develop those exact answers that you need, word for word, for what's in the application. There's no surprises there. And the application guidelines, there's two parts to this. One part is the health of your church, and the other part is the actual project. So how is it with your church? How is your church's soul, and what are you doing? And then how does this project tie into that? It just needs to be clear. It needs to be feasible. It needs to have a mission or community impact, and it needs to be sustainable. One question came in: can you request 100% for a project? The answer is no. This is a collaborative grant. This is something that we are going to do in partnership with you through financial contributions, volunteer efforts, partnership support, but we will not fund 100% of a project. There needs to be some collaboration and partnership there. So each year, the committee has decided to do this, that there will be 2 grant cycles. They'll be approximately 6 months apart. If you're not ready for the first one, get ready for the second one. Ask the questions. Make sure your documents and everything is in order for the second one. And then another one will be coming in 2027. And as Mark said, the principal that is currently being invested, the proceeds from that will continue to grow year over year. So the full grant amount for those cycles will continue to grow as we move forward. Can these funds be used towards accessibility projects? Yes, accessibility projects may be funded if they clearly improve access, support active ministry and community use. You need an ADA compliant bathroom because everything's out of date, and you want to make sure that everybody in the community feels welcome, and that whatever groups are using that you have access for that. Absolutely, yes. Oh, and this is something that a lot of people have anxiety about. We know this because we have been grant applicants in many of areas that we work within the Susquehanna Conference. And so we wanted to make sure it was clear and manageable. Make sure you prepare well and that you're very clear in the purpose and complexity of your project and how it will impact your mission or community. So that's why we developed the worksheet and we developed the guidance. So you have 2 downloadable documents that you can use to help you prepare for this. What will the application look like? The process includes submitting the online application, providing required documentation. There's ways to upload that. And we will be the committee reviewing this. The district superintendent does get notification and all of the documentation that you submitted, and they may give us feedback on that. The committee, in partnership with the district superintendent and the bishop's, Michelle Bodel is part of that. So the bishop's cabinet, thank you. Couldn't think of the word cabinet. The bishop's cabinet, they will offer us input, but the committee has the final decision on grants. So capital improvements should be building upgrades, repurposing, revitalizing the support ministry use, community engagement, or sustainability of church facilities, not just upgrades and repairs. Like if you need a new floor, that's great. But if you need a new floor because you are opening your doors to community use, that's where that bridge comes in, where it's being purposeful. Application criteria, funding limits, approvals, and deadlines. We've gone through a lot of these. Making sure that your mission aligns, you have impact, feasibility, and readiness, that you're ready for this. And if this is going to take a while, that you have a group of people at your church that is going to drive this to completion. Funding limits and deadlines, will outline those in each cycle and make sure that your church leadership has approved this plan. And then we talk about eligibility. That must be clearly connected to ministry. You'll hear that over and over again. How does this impact community, and how does this connect to your ministry? And show that the church is ready to execute and sustain the work. If you have a commitment of feeding the community once a week of 200 people, and you want to repurpose your church kitchen to accommodate that, right? Is this sustainable year over year? Is there funding available to make sure the food is coming in? Or do you have food partnership organizations that are going to help provide this? So sustainability is important. We also went over that this is typically not a multi-year funding commitment, that, if you have a phased project where step one is going to, phase one is going to immediately start serving the community, and phase two is an expansion, we can see that happening. And you apply in different grant cycles to get that phase one or phase two completed. If you have multiple things that need to happen, like a church had to close its daycare and wants to repurpose its building for community use, well, there's several things that have to happen. One, a new key fob system to make sure that's programmable, a security door between that portion of the building and the worship center to make sure that everybody's safe, knocking down some walls or putting up some walls, things like that. So there might be multiple things happening. What needs to happen first, and what do you need to do in this current cycle? We already talked about accessibility improvements. That's very encouraged. It expands your inclusion to a lot more people in the community, and allows people to participate in ministry and community life that may not otherwise have been able to if there were barriers within your church building. Funding limits are defined by each cycle. We don't have that number yet currently. Churches may apply again in future cycles, especially if previous funds have been used effectively. We talked about that. And design costs may be considered if they're directly tied to a larger approved project and demonstrate clear progress towards implementation. So those are deeper conversations that we're going to have to get more detail about. Instead of saying yes or no, we have to get a lot more detail. One question came in at the very end of right before the meeting started was, in order to get quotes from a contractor, do you need official blueprints? Well, some contractors who are licensed and insured, keyword licensed and insured, if they want to take your drawings and give you a quote for that and they're good with that, we're good with the quote. because they are, you know, they're licensed and insured. They know what they're doing. And if they can do that based on like somebody's artistic rendition of what it should look like, and then they come up with their own plans, that's fine. But no need to actually hire an architect unless your contractor says that that is necessary because of regulations, because of planning commission. Sometimes that's required. So you have to work with your locality to make sure you have all of the permits, but your contractor can give you more of that information. All right. And here it is. It's seedling.legacy.grant.committee@susumc.org. If you have additional questions, you're welcome to email us. We have regular meetings. We'll work through this. We are learning as we go. So we want to make sure that you have all the information you need to submit a successful application.
You shared the email address. Do you want to share the website, the sus dot,
Yes.
or if you let, I mean, I could just share my screen. If that
Yeah,
works.
if you would share your screen, that would be great.
So this is the front facing page here, and here is the email address. And if you go to the conference website and just type in the search engine Seedling, it'll lead you to this page. You just click this search button, type in Seedling, you'll end up here.
So the three things that we require churches to have updated: shares of ministry. Even if you're on a payback plan where you're catching up, like you have a plan to, maybe you didn't pay 100% shares of ministry, but you're on an approved church conference plan with your district superintendent, as long as that is up to date and acceptable by your district superintendent, great. Your insurance, and so that's casualty and liability insurance, and your pension for your pastor.
So let me add to that, Michelle.
Mhm.
Friends, that includes your billables when Michelle says your pension. So if you have a full-time pastor, that's your pension and your health care. If you have a half-time or three-quarter time pastor, that's your pension. We do know churches that are quarter time or less do not have a pension obligation. So whatever is your direct billed obligation to the conference.
And I also want to add that we are trying desperately to get this advertised, if you will, when the times are coming up for everything to be open. We really want to help the churches, so we definitely want to get it out there so that it's just not something that becomes wallpaper or that becomes a hidden penny. We would like the ministries to flourish within our conference, and we would love anything more but to partner with all of you.
I would love to give you ideas even.
That repurposing an unused space for a counseling office was actually from Sherry Bellish's church, Middlesex. That was one of their ideas. There, and the examples that we gave are, except for the telehealth, that was I kind of Googled that and pulled that out of there. But most of what we have input there is churches who actually have these ideas. So it could be something very simple. We need an extra door here because we're not ADA compliant. It needs to be able to be wide enough for wheelchairs. Very simple. You know, clearly it's to help people come in, feel inclusive. But, you know, more groups from the community can come in and use the facility. Absolutely. Or you have some that are more complex of, our child care center had to close down and we want to repurpose. God's telling us to use this for the community. And so we have to repurpose this whole side of the building. It's going to take a while and it's going to take some effort, but what do we need to do first? That's actually happening at some of our churches where, you know, one use, it was built for one particular use and now that use is gone.
And there are some people partnering with local caterers and bakers in their kitchens, so they have to upgrade a couple commercial things. So they have a sustainable partnership there. They're not having to put up the full capital. In many cases, that partnership will allow them to update their facility for that to make sure everything's commercial. And it's kind of a win-win situation because now you've created another partner that can help you if you're doing dinner meals, that sort of thing. So there's different ways to form a partnership that's not just a one thing, but that will morph into other ministry and mission.
I know that some churches are starting to open their doors in their gathering or gym space and trying to offer the community pickleball and volleyball. So to be compliant in that, there's some renovations that have to happen because pickleball just seems to be like the end thing to do now. So, upgrading gym space for some activity, even for the youth group.
So yeah, we're excited to hear your ideas, hear where God is leading your churches. This is an exciting time. So this is something that is very special. And me, Kelly Cook-Ross, and Sherry Bellish last year worked with Seedling Loan churches to really help them find a sustainable way to repay those seedling loans. And then the proceeds that are being paid to that, like Mark said, is part of that principle that is going to be invested, and those proceeds is going to fund this grant program. And the estimates right now is this can go into perpetuity. Like this can continue to grow and be an ongoing grant source for churches for decades to come. So we're really excited about that. God has put this together for this conference, for you, for your churches now. And with everything going on with the visioning team and our bishop, now's the time to really think outside the box. As we wrap up, we want to leave you with a clear path forward and an invitation. First, take time to reflect. Gather your leadership team and look honestly at your space, your ministry, and your community. Ask where God may already be at work and where there is opportunity to reimagine, repurpose, or revitalize what has been entrusted to you. Second, dream big. This is about expanding ministry, reaching new people, and creating space for what could be next. Be open to how God might use your church in ways you have not yet imagined. Third, begin shaping your idea. You do not need a perfect plan, but you do need a clear purpose. What impact could this have? How might this support your community? How does this align with your mission to make disciples and serve others? Fourth, start building your application materials. Develop a simple project plan, timeline, and budget. If your project includes renovation, begin gathering estimates so your vision is grounded and realistic. Fifth, connect with your district superintendent. This is a conversation for support and insight as you move forward. It helps strengthen your application and ensures alignment with your broader context. Sixth, plan for timing. Be mindful of the application windows and prepare your materials so you are ready to submit. And finally, do not do this alone. Involve your leadership, your congregation, and your community partners. The strongest ideas are shaped together and reflect real needs. This program is not just about buildings. It is about building God's kingdom, expanding ministry, supporting your community, and creating space where lives can be changed. We are excited to see what God will do through you and your church in this next season. We are excited to walk alongside you. Finally, you can get more information from the Seedling Legacy Grant Program webpage on the Susquehanna website. There are downloadable worksheets and application guidelines to help you in this process. For 2026, the application dates are April 15th through June 15th, and the second session is September 15th through October 15th. For any questions, please email seedling.legacy.grant.committee@susumc.org. This is a group email that will go to all of the committee members. One of us will be happy to respond to you and answer any questions you may have. We thank you, and we are so excited for this grant program and what God will do through you for His kingdom.